It's a distinct memory of going down like Pine Avenue in Niagara Falls, middle of the day going to a fire with a siren going, and all the kids just were so excited to see the firemen come by.
My relationship with my parents aren't that different now. My relationship with my parents isn't that different.
He almost got drafted, but how he got out of it was the conscientious objector thing, because he's a Quaker and they don't believe in war, and it's like a religious belief. So my dad's like, there's another draft coming, son. We're gonna get you to that Quaker church now, so you'll have an excuse. So
my parents forbid me to ride motorcycles, so whenever I knew somebody with a motorcycle, I'd sneak off and go riding with whoever it was. So I've been riding on motorcycles probably since I was like an early teenager.
Even though I like my work, I like teaching, acting, I like directing theater, but they're the thing I think gives my heart its truest satisfaction.
Yeah, we only have one daughter, and she is an integral part of our lives.
Well, Stu left for a little while, and then he got laid off and moved back home again. He's going to school now. He's going to get his bachelor's in computer science.
I have one sibling. Her name is Terry, and she's 27 years old.
I have one sister.
And it's a symbiotic relationship. We all benefit.
And so when I was in construction work, I mean, I would come home exhausted, physically worn out, but immediately I would just, Sal was old enough that he could come over and play with me, a year and a half, 2 years old. And he would just, I would lay on the floor when I got home in my overalls full of sawdust, and he would just jump on me. And that was, that was our playtime. And every day I'd come home, and that would help settle me.
Time actually was probably the worst part, but also having the patience to deal with their issues after I got out of work.
Or we'd have Thanksgiving dinner, and we very often had Thanksgiving dinner at our house. So we'd have all these people at my house, and around 4 in the afternoon, I'd say, well, I gotta go, and I'd leave everyone at the party, and I'd go to work.
Sorry, my parents are really good people. I'm quite close with them.
My relationship with my parents when I was a kid was very good. I was always really close with them.
But it's weird. There's still the...
I had separate relations with both of them.
Even though, my parents were great, and like there's still in some ways where I'd like to, be different from them.
He wasn't one of these dads who said, no, you got to go get a business degree, or you got to go get, teaching certification, or, something that you can fall back on. He was like, all right, that's what you want to do, then let's, do it.
I was always close with my mother growing up. I didn't see my father a lot because he worked different shift work.
Well, even though I was on the fire department, I had a good job. When you're younger, you never really seem to have enough money. And now I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I have adequate amounts of money. And if my grandson happens to say, I would like to have that, and as long as he's not pointing to that being a Corvette or that being a 40-foot sailboat, it's not really a hardship. It was a great job, and but it was probably a little bit of a hardship for my daughter because, kids like to have their father around more. But it was a positive for her too, because
between me working and them going to daycare when they were younger and then being responsible for themselves as they got older, I think they learned a lot and they grew within themselves. They learned how to take care of themselves. Well, I worked in El Paso, Texas, and it was hard. There was not a lot of time to do much of anything. So when I got out of work, it was homework, take the kids to their different activities, tried to clean the house once in a while, and then get up the next day and do it all over again. Our son, Stu, he didn't want to move up here, so he was kind of in a rebellious state of mind when we moved up here, so I had to deal with the issues of him, walking around with blue mohawks and leather jackets and stuff like that.
I went through like a 3-month phase where I was just like angry, but it was only towards my mother and like not towards my father. And it wasn't it wasn't horrible at all, but that was my puberty. Like that was it.
My relationship with my mom was always very close.
Because it seems like they were always able to come to me with their problems and talk to me about different things. And, you know, they would ask different questions as they were growing up about life and situations. And both of them would still come to me, you know, for advice throughout the years. So it was, I feel we were close.
When I was a junior or senior in high school, I was in the shower with my boyfriend, and my mom knocked on the door and asked if I needed shampoo. My sister and I aren't very close, probably because of our age differences growing up, but I'm going to be her maid of honor next year.
But before that, it was really, she was just trying to make me into a little sister. So like, I got subject to the costume box, and
We didn't get along very well because we were like 4 years apart all the time.
my sister and me are really alike,
My sister is very different from me.
but she really likes Jesus, and I don't really care about Jesus.
She's very into material possessions, and
It's harder to communicate because she'll be like, well, John, if you believe in Jesus.
if she buys a purple shirt, she has to buy the purple earrings, the purple eyeshadow, the purple shoes, and the purple bracelet and necklace. It's really strange
And then I just turn off.
because the purples don't all match, and that's weird. Too much purple.
That's the main difference currently right now between me and my sister. Jesus.
My little guy, I'm clueless. I don't know what he loves. Loves dogs. We had dogs before. We haven't had one for a few years because the other one, our last dog, got old and we had to put him down. He was just too old, and we haven't had a dog for 3 years. And he really, really wants a dog badly again. And my wife's resisting that because she's happy not to be cleaning up after a dog all the time.
When I was like, I don't know, like I was 2. You know, it was one of those like 1 or 2 memories you get before the age of like 5. And one of mine is, we had a dog at the time, and my dad would have to go around and pick up the dog poo. And I remember like trailing behind him, and like we were literally picking up dog poo. But I was so happy because I was with my dad, and I was like, this is so much fun because I'm with my dad. But we were literally picking up shit, and I thought it was the best thing in the world. So yeah, that's the kind of kid I was.
My mom worked at a nursing home in a dish room, so it'd be really hot in there, and she worked with like older patients and would have to get them food and everything. And she was driving home, and it was in the summer, and it was like 90 degrees outside, and her car broke down. And this was when I was like 3 or 4, and she basically, it was like a long day, she was exhausted. She got home and she was so upset and like kind of had a breakdown because she's always hated the wallpaper that was in the kitchen of our old house, and she just looked at it and started ripping it off the walls. And my dad walked in the room, didn't say a word, he just silently helped her rip it off. And I still remember that day. It was a good time. It was. It's one of my best memories of them.
When you have children, you love so differently. You give differently. And, you know, as an actor, you always have to trick your mind into believing the circumstance of whatever play or TV show you're doing. And when you have to put something at stake as the character in one of those scenes, you know, I could do it before. I had enough creative imagination that I could come up with something that would match what the situation of the scene was. But once you have a kid, you use them all the time. And I could think of my little guy, my Alex, has this laugh, this unconditional laugh that is just a belly laugh, and he can't control himself when his brother does something that he thinks is funny. And that's the thought that I had in my head, and I just, you know, instantly was full of joy. And I started crying because of it. It wasn't a sadness, it was just the joy of watching my son be that happy in that moment, and he really gets going. He just, he can't stop himself. And there's no holding back. And it's, you know, they become everything for you.